you guys very much. I appreciate it. My apologies for getting this started so quickly. I am going to be on a flight at 1:15 to Shanghai, China, but I'm here, made it.
Thank you.
So, and I'm really excited to be here. First off, Sarah, this is amazing. You do an amazing job every year, and I didn't know how you were going to be able to top that last space. Wow, this place is so big, and you really, really did a good job with this. So, my name is Jeremy Shepard. I am the president of the Pearl Association of America. And today, I've got, an announcement to make about our association, but I also was thinking what would be good for this group. Something that might be a little bit new. And in November, I had the pleasure of visiting China. I've been there many times, but this was the first time I had been to Xiangqiapu in probably about 10 years. About 10 years ago, even close to 15 years ago, I stopped going because all the best girls were all going to Hong Kong. It was so much easier to get to Hong Kong and just go to the show and sort girls, etc. I didn't feel like Indiana Jones traipsing around China trying to find pearls. But in November, I was invited by Guild Laboratories to visit Xiangqiapu again. And I'll tell you, the difference that 10, 15 years makes is pretty incredible. So, this is a regenerative pearl farm. Okay, some of you may know that oh, there we go. Some of you may know that China has encountered some issues with pearl farming, and a lot of areas have been shut down completely. Open pit farming tends to cause some real degradation to the groundwater, to the soil, etc. And especially the way they're growing pearls by putting chemicals into the water, things like phosphorus and other things that really help the pearls grow, I guess you could say, and may enhance the luster. But what was happening was the groundwater was getting spoiled, the actual land was getting spoiled. And so the government had to step in and say, okay, we've got to do something about this, right? And so the government stepped in quite a number of years ago and started doing research to figure out how they could produce pearls cleanly, okay? And not only was there government pressure, but of course there was social pressure as well. People are interested in sustainability. People care about their planet. People don't want to wear gems that they know, like blood diamonds, for example, that they know cause damage to people or the planet. Well, this was their answer to it: regenerative pearl farming. So regenerative pearl farming means that it's sort of a circular system where the shells produce foul. They poop in the water and it gets really murky and gross. You see that happening in Tahiti and all these other places, and they're always figuring out how to clean out the water. Well, what they do at this farm is they collect that fouling, they grow an algae with it, and then they feed that algae back to the shells. And they create a circular system where they're actually cleaning the water. And it's so good and so effective, they use this same system to clean some of the most polluted rivers in China. And adding this system to the river, I don't remember the name of the river that runs through Beijing, the one that you couldn't even swim in, is now pristine because they're cleaning it through this method. So, how do they do that? Well, wrong one. They do it by feeding these shells directly. And there's two ways they do it. First way is they drop the algae right above the shells. Okay? You see these little cups? They're just like dropping it right there. Okay, so they're feeding them exactly the amount that they need, approximately, with very little waste, because you can see it's going straight into the shell, and they're filter feeders. And they've even taken that a step further. directly into the shell. So this farm that you just saw the images of, all of the shells in that farm are either connected this way or what you saw on the last slide. So basically, it's almost like they've got an IV going into them with the exact amount of nutrients they need, and then it's all monitored like this. Right? We want to talk about space age type stuff, right? Compared to the other pearl farms in China, this is way, way beyond. They can see, the oxygen levels, the pH levels, the nitrogen levels, the ammonia levels. They have an automated feeding system. They can actually check with environmental triggers. They know when the shells are hungry. They know exactly how much food to feed these shells to grow the pearls the best way they can and to keep the shells super healthy. So the farm has a full cycle wastewater treatment system. It uses biofiltration, wetlands, and algae to clean and reuse the water, and it outputs basically zero discharge. They even use urban sewage, treated of course, but they use it and it's all clean. One of the most interesting factors about this is see these floating things in the water? Well, if you've been to China before, you know everybody uses soda bottles, so this is new. But the shells are stacked. They're stacked. They can be stacked 4, 6 deep. So instead of getting 1,000 shells per MU, which is like 0.66 acres Chinese size, they can get up to 1,000 to 1,200 shells per MU. By instead of only having one shell down here, or one basket, it goes boop, 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 and each one of them are fed exactly perfectly. This is what traditional freshwater pearl farms look like in China. And these photos were photos I took maybe 15 years ago, and going around Shanxiahu, Tuji, in that area. That's still what the majority of it looks like, open pit freshwater pearl farming. The regenerative process is still somewhat new. It's being sponsored by the government. This is still the majority, but it is shifting. And also, what is shifting in China? Live streaming. All right. So when I was there in November, I was blown away by what I saw with the live streamers. They're everywhere. They have entire buildings that are dedicated to live streamers. Think about walking into this building and walking down a hall. It's about maybe 50 yards long, and there's doors lining the side there, and each one has a little light on it that tells you whether or not they're on air. You peek inside, and there could be 50 to 100 live streamers going live at any given time, 24 hours a day from these buildings. And they're fully integrated. The pearl farmers are producing their own pearls, they're producing their own jewelry, and then they bring in the live streamers. It's completely changed the market in China because now almost everything is live streaming. And it's not just in these rooms. I mean, you walk around the pearl market, you see people doing it there. You can go to a pearl farm. Look at that. In a pearl farm, you'll see these little tables set up in little spots all along the pearl farms, and people are out there live streaming pearls. So some of you know that we've been doing some live streaming here in the US as well. No idea where I got the idea from. And then technology. Technology has shifted tremendously. Again, if you've been to China before, you would remember that they've got long tables lined up in these processing facilities where they just dump literally tons of pearls down these tables. And people just sit there all day sorting these pearls. They sort them for size, they sort them for shape, sort of color, luster, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really big job. And especially in China when you're dealing with metric tons of pearls, it's a big job. So, look at this. AI sorting. And it's not just, sorting for color. We've got, let me hit this button correctly. In other words, there we go. Sorting for size, sorting for color, and this is how it actually works. There's some sound to this, but it's probably better if it's not. It sounds sort of like a pachinko machine. If you've ever been to Japan before and walked down the street, people are playing pachinko. It kind of sounds like that. It's the pearl just going through here. How quickly they are being sorted. Being sorted by, I don't know what this machine is set to. Maybe it's set to size. It's clearly not set to color, right? It's a mix. But yeah, isn't that something? So now the volume that they're able to process with just one of these machines is somewhat mind-boggling. And I mentioned that we had a bit of an announcement. A year ago when I was here, I just became the president of the Cultured Pearl Association of America. Thank you. Thank you again. And part of what I mentioned we were doing last year was shutting down the Cultured Pearl Association of America and restarting it as the Pearl Association of America. Well, it's been quite a year since then. It turns out it's not just as easy as saying, hey, you just changed our name when you're a New York 501c3 and it's been around since 1957. But we did go through the process with a new set of bylaws, a new certificate of organization, and we just had our vote last Monday, and we are now officially the Pearl Association of America. And what this means is that what we've been doing since 1937, we're shifting. And just a few years ago, our strategy was the same as it's been for decades, which has been basically to have a booth in Tucson, have a booth in Las Vegas, JCK, and have a design competition. So we don't know if we're going to have another booth. We're definitely not going to have a booth the way we did in the past. We're not going to have one at JCK this year. We didn't have one in Tucson. We're shifting our focus. We're shifting our focus to education as a primary. In 2016, we put out Pearls as One, a course on cultured pearls. It's been translated into 9 different languages, so it's in 10 languages now. And we've had thousands and thousands of people take the course. And so it's been very successful. But education doesn't really exist in the same way for natural pearls. And so there's a gap in the market. Many members of the Pearl Association of America also sell natural pearls. In my company, we sell natural pearls, cloth pearls, metal pearls, etc. It's not a big part of our business, but we do sell that. Well, the two industries are completely separate. It may seem like they should be one industry from the outside perspective because it's all pearls, but they're not. They're completely separate industries. And so what we decided to do is we are the Pearl Association. We love natural pearls. We love cultured pearls. We are not married to the Japanese pearl industry or the Chinese pearl industry. We love pearls. So we're supporting pearls. So our new organization is basically 3 pillars in what we are standing for. Number one, first and foremost, is education. The Pearls as One course is being revised right now to update what's going on in China, first and foremost, since it hasn't been updated since 2017. It's basically completely out of date because the Chinese industry changes so fast. And we are also adding a entire course on natural pearls. And the natural pearl course is starting with conch. And you guys get the very first sneak peek of the first module. And I'll show you how to get to this module afterwards because any feedback we get from you guys would be absolutely priceless since this was literally finished as a beta version about 4 days ago. So, and I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of the course. We cover, just introduction and a little bit about conch pearls. And by the way, all these, the photography is all original as well. And it's got quite a lot of great shots. But we go into the science behind the conchs. Believe it or not, it's a photo I took in Florida where they were culturing conchs. We were able to slice a conch in half, show the bending on the inside of it. I didn't know there were 5 different kinds of flames. We're teaching on the different kinds of flames. Videos to show what the flame is really supposed to look like when you're looking at it up close and seeing what the different kinds of flames are. All these things that people need to understand if they are trying to successfully sell conch pearls. And so the course is designed based on feedback from the first Pearls is One course. What was missing? What did people want to see? We took all of that feedback into account in designing this course. Yes, it shows lighting and examinations, grading and everything else, but instead of focusing the course on just retailers, for example, or just collectors and hobbyists, we've separated it out for jewelers and designers. Specific tips for jewelers, how to work with conch pearls. So they're so different. And then, of course, retailers. How do you present conch pearls? How do you show the flame? How do you show the luster, the shape? How do you explain it? And of course, for collectors and buyers. What do you look for when you're buying a conch pearl? How do you make sure you're getting a real one? How do you not get ripped off? These are all the pieces that are going to be included in the new revised Pearls is One. And for the cultured pearls as well. And this is going to be the template. Once we get all your feedback, guys, this will be the template for the natural pearl module. We're going to be covering, of course, conch, mellow, clam, quaha, oyster, and then we'll have a secondary part of the course, which will cover a lot of the smaller pearls, or the smaller market share, I should say, smaller market share, things like your spondylus, etc. And this is due to be released October 1st, 2025, which is my birthday.
That's my birthday. That's your birthday too?
Great day. Yeah, so it's due to be released in October of 2025, October 1st, my birthday. Your birthday. And also, we are not just focusing on education, but we're also focusing on experiential, immersive experiences. We've decided that the old style of having booths at the shows and handing out paper and trying to talk to people just doesn't really carry the weight that it did in the past. And especially with the digital today and social media, etc. So instead of going to our old benefactors and saying, please give us money so we can put signs up at JCK and ads in the magazines, instead we're taking an immersive experience route. And what this means is connecting people authentically to the gem, giving people behind the scenes experiences. For example, we're leaving on, well, I say we, a couple of us are leaving on June 1st. We are going to Japan, and we're going to be leading a group of 8, all influencers, to tour pearl farms in Japan and then go to Kobe, the International Pearl Fair. We're going to end the tour there. Pearl farm tour. The very first one the Japanese have ever allowed behind the scenes. And they are super, super nervous about this, but they've agreed to do it. In fact, they've agreed to do it twice. So our first 2 trips are going to be this June, and the next one is going to be in November. And what we're doing with these first 2 trips is we're creating sort of a template of what we're going to be offering outside of, say, the influencer sphere. And that template is basically going to be an experience, an immersive experience template where we can say, okay, we had our experience in Japan twice. It was a great trip, but there were a lot of hiccups. Work out those hiccups, and then we can go on and take a group to Shanshafu, Takaroa, Sabu Sabu, all these other places around the world where these pearl farms are. So, yeah, that'll be available in 2026 to the members. And speaking of the members, we're making a slight shift there as well. Currently, we have foundation members and affiliate members. We are going to be making a shift where we're going to have affiliate members still, maintaining the affiliate members that we've had in the past, but also professional level. We didn't have sort of an in-between before, between professional or foundation and affiliate. So we will have a foundation level, which is going to be importers in the US, and then a professional level, which will include retailers, people who own their businesses, and then affiliates, which can be basically anyone. You know, it's $100 a year to be an affiliate, and you get full access to the course. Professionals get access for everybody on their team, and foundation members will get a sponsorship code for not only everybody on their team, but also anyone they want to educate. So, this is 2025, and I know I've been running through this really quick, and I apologize because I have a flight at 1:15 that I have to get on, and I can't miss. So, thank you very much. Yeah, and by the way, I've got a few extra minutes. I think I went a little too fast, so if you have any questions. Yeah.
In general to pearl farming, it would seem to me it would produce better pearls. Have they found that in this case?
They absolutely say they are. Yeah, I haven't actually opened up a shell yet to really verify that, but it's always the common consensus is that the pearls are better. They said definitely, they're growing larger. Which makes sense. If you're in a pond, an open pit pond, and they are, spray feeding the shells, well, you're gonna have areas where they're not getting as much nutrients in the areas where they are. So you've got a consistency there. You think about it like, in Japan, there's this shopping center called Isetan, and you go inside of it, and there's a fruit section, and you can pay $50 for an apple, $100 for a mango. Okay, why is that? Because they come from these boutique farms where every single piece of fruit is cared for like a cow in Kobe, okay? until it's ready to be picked. And so the fruit has got the best possible taste, the best possible texture, the best possible shape. They're kind of doing the same thing with pearls. And in that each shell is being cared for the way, one of those super special mangoes would be cared for.
What percentage of pearls are being created now?
Patty, that's a great question. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm going to be talking with them about when we get out there, because most of the farmers have moved to bead nucleation, but most of the demand is in tissue. So we've been struggling getting all the tissue graft that we need in the sizes and quality. But that may be changing, because it's always sort of a race to the bottom over there. And the small bead, nucleated freshwater pearls, they came out with a bang, everybody was really excited, but now overproduction has reached such a level that the bottom has fallen out of the market. The farmers that are producing these small beaded pearls are now losing money. It basically destroyed their own market in about a year. And on top of that, there's the possibility that they'll start nucleating 7-8 millimeter pearls. If that happens, they're going to destroy that market in about a year. So that's part of the discussions that we're going to be having in Shanghai this week.
Do you want to talk about China, Koya?
Oh, okay. And another thing I'll be talking about there, is that these beaded freshwater pearls have been coming into the U.S. market as AK freshwater. And we're going to be having a closed door meeting in Changshahu, just with about 10 people. And we're going to be discussing that pretty specifically. They've asked me to come out there to help them enter the U.S. market. And I'm going out there to tell them why I'm going like this for the U.S. market, until there's some changes. And AK freshwater is definitely one of them. The new beaded freshwater is called AK, which really is just kind of to sound like it's a Koya. because they're bee nucleated. But they have several issues. I mean, they can grow in 3 to 6 months. They're growing them in Thailand. They're processing them highly so that the luster only lasts 9 to 10 months. And so they look like a koya, but they're not. And calling them AK freshwater it's not standing on their own merits, if you will. It almost sounds like it's a knockoff of the Japanese pearls. And I, for one, am certainly not going to be selling AK freshwater in the United States. And so they want to know how to enter the United States. It's like, well, if you can enter my company, you'll be able to enter the United States. So that'll be the conversation we have about AK freshwater. That and a few other things. That's a big one, and that's why we have to have a closed door meeting without any of the government minders and no cameras.
So don't tell him, because he's on his way there.
But they've agreed to have a closed door meeting, and it will be the first closed door meeting they've ever had, and they've been doing this World Pearl Forum for 5 years.
Please get to the TV show hosts.
TV
'Cause
show?
Yeah, I'll give you privately the names. But, Jim Shopping,
Oh, yeah.
because they're all, these are fine pearls, and you can't even get the reflection correct.
So David Troth is going to be there. He's on this trip, Jim Coria, and we're going to be spending a few days together. So we're going to talk a lot about pearls.
Yeah, these are freshwater pearls, and they're Akoya. I'm rolling on the
Oh, no.
floor.
Oh no!
Oh, yeah.
Oh no! Yeah. So that's part of the problem. Is that they are being accepted by that name from some people, but yeah, you'll never hear me call Australia heated freshwater as AK.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Any other questions? Good to go.
Thank you so much.
Sarah. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.